It's my great pleasure to introduce Ben Rolleman. Ben is 22 years of age and he's living with RP. He's currently working on a degree in computer science at the University of Alberta and has just completed a 16-month internship at IBM. He's an inspiring individual, let me tell you that. And he's an aspiring IT professional. Ben hopes to continue to grow and overcome the challenges of living with vision loss. Please welcome Ben Rolleman.
All right. Oh, there it is. Okay, awesome. So everybody can hear me? All good? So unlike all the other great speakers, I can't see. Or can't see very well. So I actually have all my notes on a computer. All right, so when I first, I guess I'll kind of go over my background a bit. So I first learned about not being able to see all that well. Like I was officially diagnosed when I was about 10 years old, back in 2000. I know at this time I really didn't understand what it was all about. It's like, oh, by the way, you're going to go blind, but the funny thing about being blind is if you don't see something, you don't notice you're not seeing it. It doesn't exist. So I didn't really get it, but eventually if you walk into enough trees or posts or walls, you start to get, okay, there is something out there that I'm not seeing. So really my adventure starts off in junior high when I first learned about okay, I really can't see. I started to get large print, and you start to notice, at night you can't see as well. Another big part of dealing with the vision loss, I started to learn new tricks to, get around. When you can see, you just see there's a chair in front of you. Well, when you can't see, it's more difficult, so you start to use things like your white cane. Rather than seeing something, you feel something. It's a different way of doing things. In addition, for example, crossing the street, you can listen for the traffic. You don't actually need to have those chirping lights to cross the street. The traffic goes in a pattern. So it's all these tricks to make yourself able to interact with society the same as you normally would. It was also very challenging, I know, in junior high and high school in regards to your social life, because anyone who's been through junior and high school, everyone wants to fit in, everyone wants to be the same. And the trouble is, when you can't see that, well, you are different, and there is no way to change that. But once you do get some friends, and they will come, there's always people out there who are very great and love to get to know you, and then they find out that, oh, this person's actually pretty normal. They just don't see all that well. So that's definitely something to look forward to if you're young and you're just getting into junior high and high school. That stuff comes. It's just not going to be the same. You won't be able to compete, to be the cool sports jock probably, but you can still have a very good social life. A big challenge I know I had was with junior high and high school was accessibility. I was the first student in my school to go through the regular public school system in that school. So everybody in the entire school had to learn that they can't just give me a piece of paper and expect me to read it. And anyone who has some vision loss knows how frustrating that can be. It's like, oh, I forgot to get this again. Now you just missed another lecture, right? So that was fairly frustrating, but overall it was not too bad. Once apart from that, you had a social life, you had friends, and it works out. It happens. And a big part of in junior high, I know my parents were very, very good with this, especially in junior high, was advocating for what you need. If you need it in large print, you need to get it in large print. If you need it in Braille, you need it in Braille. And you need to advocate constantly to get that and to allow you to succeed. And it was the same thing with high school, except for in high school, it was starting to switch over to, now I had to self-advocate. If I couldn't see something, I need to tell the support staff, say, hey, I need this bigger, I need this, in an electronic format on the computer or whatever is needed. And that's really, really important, is building up the self-confidence to be able to say, no, I need this, I need it this way. And it's really, really important, not just for accessibility, but for life in general. Having being very self-confident is very, very good. When I was in high school, I also noticed, like many people with RP, there was definitely a defining moment where I basically got a huge, huge drop in vision. I think my vision cut itself in half in less than a year. So that was a pretty big drop, and that's, again, it really pushes you to, okay, I suddenly have this disability, but how can I overcome it? And that's a big part too, is you need to focus more on your abilities, not your disability, because you can, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later, is you can participate in almost every situation, like in terms of a job, in terms of university, it's all very accessible. And I know in high school I also started orientational mobility, so training with white cane and like the other tricks with listening for the cars, etc., to know how to navigate. And that's all really, really important to do, and I believe the CNIB supplies a lot of stuff like that. Okay, in terms of other outlets, a big thing that actually really helped me was to a point sports. Originally, when I was in junior high, I was taking martial arts, Taekwondo specifically, but even that was fairly difficult. I still managed to get my black belt, but overall it was not the easiest thing. So I actually took up goalball after that, which is a blind sport, very, very accessible. Anyone with any amount of vision can play it, including totally blind. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great physical sport, and you'll be able to burn off some steam if you're frustrated with how things are going at school. And in addition, it's also a great time where you can talk with other students with the same problems as you, because they're all generally going to be blind or nearly blind students for that. So I guess we'll go to university. It's a little more interesting, a little more current. So university was very different than high school, because in high school, if I couldn't figure out how to get something I needed, I can just talk to my parents and they'd help out. Same thing with junior high. In university, you're on your own. The university doesn't want to talk to your parents. They want you to be self-confident enough to self-advocate, tell them what you need, and to go through with it. And that's extremely important, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much support you have, you still have a certain level of disability, because not everything is going to be perfectly accessible. The professor will scribble something on the board, you won't see it. Stuff like that, it happens. But that's when you got to focus on your abilities more. Focus on, I'm smart, I can do this. So if I didn't get everything in class, I go home and I read the textbook, or I do a quick Google search online. So there's lots of ways to work around that. So it's very much about doing things yourself. I definitely support that if you can. So the self-advocating, advocating for yourself, but also if you can learn by yourself, or you're responsible for your own education. Just sit and you can do it very well. Because there's nothing with it, just vision loss is not a big deal, or even vision hearing, it's not a big deal. If you really want something, you can do it. It's there, and all you have to do is drive yourself to do it. Have the drive to succeed in what you want, and you can do it. There's very, very little in university, in careers, that you couldn't do if you really wanted to do it. I've even heard that there's actually blind photographers out there. I'm still not entirely sure how that works, but you know what? That's what they wanted to do, and they're apparently very, very good. Their photographs sell for a lot of money, so it's all possible. And that's another big thing too, with being self-confident, is almost an attitude of you don't care so much what people are thinking about you. Like, for example, you can, like when you're going to the grocery store, if you're ever out on your own as a blind person, go into the grocery store, or as a visually impaired person, sometimes you're going to have to pick up things to figure out what they are. That generic plastic bag, you pick it up, oh, there must be apples in there, or oh, there must be, it's this type of pasta. So sometimes you're going to have the self-confidence to do things that you have to do and just not care so much what people are going to say. Oh, that's really weird. It's, no, this is what I have to do, and just do it. And having that attitude will really help in succeeding, and people notice that, and it's really good. Really good to have that. Another big thing that'll help with that is the use of the white cane. Even for people that have, some sight who think they can get along, they don't bump into too much stuff. It's really good to have it because it tells people, hey, I can't see that well. If I look lost, I probably am lost. And it also makes it, as an added bonus, it makes it much easier to apologize to somebody that you've just plowed over. Anyone who can't see will admit to have done that a few times. And you'd be surprised going through an airport. It's the crowd parts for you. It's very, very handy. So there is some advantages. It's not all bad. In fact, very little is bad. As part of the university, I went on an internship for 16 months at IBM. I lived on my own for pretty much 16 months in Markham, Ontario, which is right by Toronto. And this was a very big eye-opener for me because this is the first job I've ever had. It was on my own. I've never lived out of home, let alone the other side of the country almost. And it was very encouraging to see that once you kind of stretch a little bit and you're on your own, you go, oh, this isn't so bad. I can do this. I'm not, this doesn't hold me back that much. Yeah, I have to take the bus, but most people take the bus there. Even in my work environment, I wasn't having trouble with adapting as much as I actually thought I would. It's actually fairly easy. Most employers, I find, or at least from IBM's case, are very open to having people with disabilities as employees, and I wasn't the only blind one in the building, which was very encouraging. But yeah, once you kind of got settled in and they got the technology set up so that you could use it, I found that, the vision didn't really affect. I had no trouble competing, in terms of a technical point of view, I had no trouble doing anything that they gave to me versus someone else. There was no real disadvantage there. And this also really helped with me in terms of self-confidence too, because when you're on your own, you can't rely on anyone, so you have to do things for yourself. And once you do it, you go, oh, it's not so bad. And it builds up your self-confidence, and that's a big thing, I find. So I guess in terms of personal life in general, the IBM thing was a very, very good experience, and it builds a self-confidence. And this doesn't affect just everything. It's I go to a course now. I don't feel like, oh my goodness, I'm behind everybody because I'm missing all this information. I'm competing at everybody else at a relatively equal level because I'm using my other abilities, my ability to hear, my knowledge of the computer, use your brain to get ahead. Everything else will compensate for the lack of vision. And you just got to get the confidence to do what you need to do, and it's all good. So I don't have any, I don't feel like I am at any disadvantage, and I find it's about your abilities, not your disability. And with that, I have a girlfriend, I have, things are going really well. I'm hoping to have a really good career in the technology industry, and I'm looking forward to all that life brings. And that's pretty much my speech. I'm a university student, so I'm not quite used to being at the front of the class. So if there's any questions, feel free. I know I kind of went through things fairly quickly.
I love what you said.
Mm-hmm.
It's about your ability, not your disability. For that, I want to applaud.
All right, right on.
We have one more question. Thank you, Ben, for what you said. Very inspiring. I'm a few years older than you, but also have RP. There's one thing in terms of accessibility and coping methods that you didn't talk very much about, and I wondered if you could tell me more about your use of Braille. Do you know Braille? When did you use it? And how important was Braille in your education, and how important do you expect Braille will be in your career?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I actually had it in my notes, and I skipped it accidentally. I missed it. I do know Braille. I do not regularly use it because I have enough vision to use a computer with large print. And even when my eyes are tired, I'll just get the computer to read the text to me. I think in terms of importance of Braille, it depends on how much vision you have. If you can fairly easily use large, like screen enhancements on your computer, you're probably best off using those. But if you have a hard time with that, then Braille would be very important, especially in the math area, because computers still are really, really poor at reading off formulas and math stuff. Whereas English text, if you're an English major reading off some poetry or something, the computers generally can read those off. So I think it does depend. If you're totally blind, Braille, yeah, absolutely. Definitely a very, very good thing.
Sorry, I had one more question. How do you deal with visual fatigue? Obviously, university, there's pretty concentrated. Do you have a strategy with that?
Yes and no. Some of it is just tough through it, but when possible, I assume it's limited vision, so use a screen reader to read out. For example, if you're reading a book, get an audiobook or have the computer read the book to you, and then you can just lay back in your chair and close your eyes and just listen to the book, as opposed to line by line reading and getting yourself a big headache. And a decent computer screen also helps. Some of the really poor quality screens will give you headaches, or at least they do for some people. It's kind of a fact of life. Even taking a break too, just kind of take a break, lay back for 10 minutes, maybe set your alarm if you think you're going to fall asleep. Also helps, just to give your eyes a break.
Yep.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Judith, and I have RP, as well as my brother and my sister.
Mm-hmm.
If I had known, because I'm a lot older than you, if I had known back then in my generation that I could exceed past the disability to the ability, I probably would have gone to university, and I probably would have been a researcher, because I'm so interested in that. And I commend you for doing what you do.
Thank you.
And having a very positive attitude. I also wonder if you ever used an intervener, or did you have a note taker when you were in university?
In university, no. I generally took my own notes. In cases where it was really hard to do so, I'd usually approach the prof and ask them to if I can record them. Most laptop computers have an audio recorder built into them, so you can record the lecture, and if you have to listen to it later on, you can. Time to times, I have had note takers for a few classes, for mainly math-based classes, because they're very difficult to take notes in. And I know at the U of A, what they do is they give 2 students carbon paper, and the one student will, the students will write, and then they give you the second half, and then that can either be typed up by the university's support department, or you can take it home and scan it yourself, which is what I did a fair number of times, just to do, because I needed it now, and that was the fastest way to get it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Do you use a cane?
I do.
Isn't it wonderful when you're out with a cane and everybody recognizes and the whole world wants to help you?
Well, not everybody. Those are the ones that don't recognize you that plow over. But then it helps to apologize. Like, I'm sorry, I can't see. I didn't want to hit you, but I just didn't see you. But you just don't worry about it. It happens. That's what I kind of meant with the self-confidence. It's like,
thank you.
You care, but you don't care, right? It's like,
thank you very much for coming.
Do anything about it.
I enjoyed your speech. Thank you very much for coming to speak to us.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben, and thanks for inspiring us. And it's so, for me as a University of Alberta faculty member, it's so wonderful to know that you've come into an environment such as the University of Alberta that's supporting you and allowing you to grow. I think it's wonderful.